Close your eyes. Let your mind drift to a Sunday afternoon in Sao Paulo. The honeyed glow of the setting sun begins to bleed through the jagged gaps of the concrete canyons. Outside, the city roars with life, but inside your room, an eerie, suffocating silence takes hold. You sit there, shoulders heavy, as if carrying the crushing weight of a week lost to spreadsheets and meetings that never seem to end. Thirsting to find yourself again, you reach for your guitar, your sanctuary, your last remaining escape from the world. But look closer at those hands. Instead of plucking a string to soothe your soul, your fingers instinctively tap the cold glass of your phone. A silent battle begins. An invisible obsession takes root. Is this angle artistic enough? Will this filter mask the exhaustion on my face? What caption will make them envy my life? 30 minutes pass, then 45. The room remains silent. Not a single note has been struck. There is only the clicking of calculations and the cold, blue light reflecting off a face lost in a performance of happiness. When the screen finally goes dark, you realize you never even played. Your hands are sore, not from a difficult chord, but from gripping a camera to capture a perfect frame. Your mind isn't at peace. It's hollow, drained, and aching more than when you started. My friend, here's the bitter truth. You aren't playing music. You are kneeling before a cruel, invisible tyrant called the like. We are strangling the very things born to save us. Why do we fear wasting time, so much that we feel compelled to turn every private moment into a public exhibit? Beneath the facade of productivity and connection, are we just slaves decorating our own cages? It's time to face the coldest question of all. Are you actually living your life, or are you just working a shift for an audience that doesn't even exist? Step into a radiant sunrise in Rio de Janeiro, where the Atlantic waves gently lap against the white sands of Copacabana. Through the shimmering morning mist, we catch sight of a man. Let's call him Tiago. From a distance, Tiago is the embodiment of discipline. Powerful strides, drenched in sweat, breathing like clockwork. But if you lean in a little closer, you'll discover a cold, hollow truth hiding behind that flawless facade. Tiago isn't feeling the briny sea breeze against his skin. He doesn't hear the symphony of his own heartbeat, the very rhythm of his existence. His eyes are locked, dead set, on the flickering blue light of a Garmin watch. He's racing a ghost. Every stride he takes isn't for the strength of his body. It's a sacrifice made to a virtual altar called Strava. He is paralyzed by the fear that if the data doesn't sync, if his heart rate graph isn't impressive enough to outshine his friends, then this entire effort will vanish like sea foam, as if it never happened at all. Welcome to the invisible prison, that toxic space where we lock ourselves inside the spotlight effect. We are performing in an empty theater, yet we are exhausted, terrified that the phantoms in the audience won't be satisfied. From a Stoic perspective, this is a brutal betrayal of the soul. The ancient masters taught us that true happiness lies in the act itself, in virtue, not in the thunderous applause of a crowd. When Tiago runs only to boast, he surrenders his autonomy. He is no longer the master of his own legs. He is a servant to the validation of strangers. You see, when you paint a picture just to wait for a compliment, every brushstroke ceases to be yours. It has been stolen by vanity. You are trapped in a painful paradox. The harder you perform life for others, the more you wither away in the world of your own. It's time. Smash the watch. Silence the notifications. And learn to run again, just to hear your own breath in the vast, beautiful silence of the void. Come with me to a tiny kitchen in Porto Alegre. Imagine the heavy, sweet aroma of cinnamon and brown sugar wafting through the air every Saturday night. There, I had a friend named Isabella. For her, kneading dough wasn't just cooking, it was a sacred ritual. It was the way she spoke to her wounds and found a fragile peace in a chaotic world. Isabella's bread had a strange, haunting magic, because every loaf was shaped by pure, unadulterated freedom. But then the toxic whispers began. Well-meaning friends, blinded by a lack of foresight, planted a seed in her mind called the side hustle. They said, "This is too good to be free. You have to open a shop. Don't waste your talent. Turn it into cash." Isabella smiled, and a year later that dream became a reality. She had the online store, the endless list of customers, and the numbers dancing in her bank account. But what was the cost? One afternoon, I walked in to find Isabella sitting motionless amidst scattered flour. Her eyes were vacant. The fire that used to burn within her had turned to ash. She looked at her oven as if she were staring at a pair of shackles. In a voice like a fading whisper, she confessed, "I hate the smell of flour now, and I loathe the sound of that notification bell." Welcome to the graveyard of joy, the overjustification effect. The moment we drape our hobbies in the cloak of efficiency, we unknowingly invite a killer to strangle our intrinsic motivation. When coins and external praise become the goal, the internal flame flickers and dies. We are making a fatal mistake, turning our sanctuaries of the spirit, the only places where our souls can truly rest, into unpaid sweatshops where we exploit ourselves until we are hollow. Never let your joy become a slave to the material world. Because when you do, you don't just lose a hobby, you lose a piece of your soul. Let me take you back to a freezing winter night on the banks of the Danube, nearly 2,000 years ago. Inside a storm-lashed military tent, amidst the clashing of steel and the suffocating political intrigue of the Roman Empire, the most powerful man on earth sits alone by a flickering candle. That man is Marcus Aurelius. He isn't writing a decree of conquest. He isn't drafting grand military strategies. He is writing meditations. But here is the secret the modern world often misses. He never intended for it to be published. That monumental book, the cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, was actually nothing more than fragmented journal entries, a silent, raw dialogue with his own soul. It was his hobby, the only oasis of freedom for an emperor drowning in a sea of responsibility. He wrote not to become a best-selling author, but to keep his mind from shattering. Welcome to the concept of Skholē, a forgotten legacy of ancient wisdom. Do you want to know the ultimate irony? Skholē is the root of our word school. But its original meaning had nothing to do with the pressure of exams or fierce competition. It meant leisure for the cultivation of the soul. In ancient Greek, rest was not laziness. It was a noble act, the essential space where a human being could rediscover their true nature. We Brazilians have a philosophy, viver sem pressa, to live without haste. It's not an excuse for stagnation. It is a proud, defiant rebellion against the madness of productivity. My friend, a true hobby was never meant to polish your resume or beautify your social media profile. It must be a nameless place, a sanctuary where you are allowed to strip off every mask, every title, and every expectation, to simply be yourself before the mirror of time. Don't turn your healing into another race. Learn to be idle without guilt. Because it is in those useless moments that you finally, truly find what it means to be human. Look deep into your own eyes, reflected in that phone screen at midnight. That isn't the light of joy staring back at you. It's the cold, blue glow of a soul being bled dry. You've just spent 2 hours watching shimmering cooking clips, flawless knife cuts, and perfect meals on TikTok. You tell yourself you're relaxing, but why is it that when the screen finally goes black, your chest feels heavy and your mind is more depleted than when you started? Welcome to the brutal divide between passive consumption and active creation. Picture a different scene. You put the phone down. You walk into the kitchen and pick up a single egg. You feel the rough, cold texture of the shell. You hear the sharp, satisfying crack as it breaks. You breathe in the rich, searing aroma as it hits the hot pan. Maybe you'll burn it. Maybe it will taste terrible and your kitchen will be a mess. But in that exact moment, you are truly alive. The truth the algorithms don't want you to know is this: scrolling is not a hobby. It is a submissive reaction to hits of cheap dopamine, a kind of psychological poison candy that numbs your brain in a fake euphoria. A real hobby requires something far more powerful: presence. From the perspective of neuropsychology, when you actually put your hands to work, whether it's a messy doodle or simply driving a nail into wood, your brain enters the flow state. This is the sanctuary of the mind. It is a place where time stands still, and the ghosts of the past or the anxieties of the future simply evaporate. Stop confusing watching others live with actually living your own life. Choose your own burnt egg over a brilliant, soulless screen. Because in the end, only action has the power to rescue your soul from this emptiness. Step into a small dance studio in the bustling heart of Lapa, where fiery samba rhythms shake the foundations of ancient, weathered walls. In the middle of that crowd, I catch sight of a man. If you saw him on a Monday morning, you'd bow in respect. He's a powerful CEO, a man who holds the fate of thousands of employees and multi-million-dollar deals in his hands. But here, under the dim, hazy lights of the dance floor, that god is melting away. He's a terrible dancer. His steps are offbeat, his arms swing awkwardly, and a body accustomed to the rigid armor of a three-piece suit now stumbles before the wild, untamed pulse of Brazil. But look at his eyes. They radiate a light that no financial report could ever provide. He's laughing. It's the innocent, raw laugh of a child discovering the world for the very first time. Why? Because this is the only sanctuary where he doesn't have to be good. He isn't responsible for a single KPI. He doesn't have to force himself to be perfect. Welcome to the resurrection of the amateur. In the age of artificial intelligence, perfection has become a cheap commodity. AI can paint a flawless picture, compose a perfectly tuned score, or render a video so smooth it's terrifying. But AI doesn't know how to be clumsy. Machine-made perfection is soulless. It is precisely those messy sketches, those out-of-tune notes, or those wobbling dance steps of that CEO that serve as the ironclad proof of a being that is actually alive. We have been poisoned by the mindset that if we aren't good at something, we shouldn't do it at all. What a crime against the soul. You need to give yourself permission to be bad at something just to hold on to your humanity. Have the courage to be an amateur. Fall in love with your own clumsiness. Because the moment you let go of the pressure to succeed, you finally touch the hem of ultimate freedom. Don't let perfection rob you of your right to fail. It is in the cracks of our clumsiness that the light of the true self finally finds its way in. Walk with me one last time out of this theater of illusions. Stop for just a second, right in the middle of the whirlwind of Sao Paulo, or wherever you find yourself right now, to listen to the beat of a heart that is simply exhausted from playing the role of perfect. I want to hand you a challenge, not a goal to conquer, but an act of liberation. Today, have the courage to do something completely useless. Pick up a pen, draw a messy doodle with everything you've got, and then throw it in the trash the moment you're done. Let those strokes belong only to this fleeting second. Not for display, not for sale, but to soothe your soul. Pick up that guitar and play a melody out of tune without hitting record, without obsessing over the camera angle. And please, just once, leave your phone behind. Walk out into the streets and feel the briny ocean breeze or the scent of wet earth against your skin, without needing a single check-in to prove you were there. What? Because you are not a commodity on a shelf waiting for the world to appraise you. You are not an algorithm or a production machine designed to squeeze out every second in exchange for soulless numbers. Your hobby is a sanctuary, not an unpaid sweatshop. A true human being isn't defined by what they create for the world, but by how they enjoy this life simply because it is worth enjoying. Don't let anyone or any society steal your right to live purely. Stand tall, look straight into the madness of this world and say, "My soul is my own, and it will never be conquered by the pressure to be productive." Warriors of the spirit, it's time to reclaim your freedom from the ashes of productivity. Because in the end, the moment you dare to do something just for the sake of your own joy, that is the moment you truly become invincible. Invictus.